Hi everybody, welcome back to my modeling channel. So today we're gonna build again an Airbus A320 from Revell, scale 144. So we will modify this kit to make an A319, and I will use some other decals, but you will see that a little bit later on. So let's do the kit review. But this is not the first time you saw me building those A320 from Revell. I did many. I bought a batch actually a while ago. And I have to say that I have some surprise, because on this batch of Air Berlin, some kit came with both engine options and some came only with one option. So let's open the box, see what we have again, and we'll have that kit description. So we're gonna start initially with the first sprue. And that first sprue is composed with both fuselage half, and I have to say that it's a very fine engravement, which is quite nice. But as you can see, I don't know if we can see it here. Yes, you can see that the plastic, there is a lot of plastic basically who have been outside of the mold, and we're gonna have also here we're gonna have to do a lot of work to prepare those parts, as you can see also on the tail. The mold hasn't been very good, so there are some small defaults, but nothing too difficult. We're gonna have to do a little bit of cutting and adjusting. Now that part should have on this side the V2500 engines. Here is the CF54 if I remember correctly. So those engines, on some kits, the same livery with the Air Berlin, some kits have both engine options and some have only one engine option. So it's a kind of a lottery. So when you build, if you build some models with the V25 engines, I would suggest you to, and you're not using them, keep them and save them for later, just in case. We still have the same problem on those engines and those parts. I don't know if we can see from here, but yeah, you can see the surface inside the wings is not very good. There will be a lot of rescribing, and we're gonna have to cut a lot of parts. So for a beginner there will be a little extra work, as they are not used to do that, and there could be some gap on the trailing edge of the wing. So that's something you should consider for a young, inexperienced modeler. Those engines, as you can see, there will be a little bit of work. Of course, again, a lot of plastic here and there. Some parts who are not really clean up, so there will be a little bit of fiddling around. And the last part is the cockpit, the windscreen or the cockpit window, which is okay. I mean, there is nothing to complain too much about it. So that's what we have. Now we're gonna move on to the kit descriptions. So quite easy, a few pages. It's an A4 format, little booklet. You got all the parts, part list, give you a kit description basically, and then you have the instruction. Even give you the weight that you need to put in the nose, which is quite important to respect if you don't want to have your aircraft sitting on its tail. And all the rest is pretty straightforward. Now the decals options, you have only one decal options for Air Berlin, and you have it on the rest of the page. Now we're gonna have a quick look on the decal shield itself. They are made by Revell. They are pretty good quality, I have to say. I never had any issue with those Revell. The good thing is you have the Air Berlin logo, but you also have all the panel lines and the little details on the aircraft, and those are really good. I have to say that I've been using them all the time for my models. So that's all for this little kit. Now what I will do is I will start the assembly exactly like I would do for a regular 320. Then I will do the adjustment, cut the fuselage and make it as a 319. So enough of talking, and let's start building. So we're gonna start this kit modification by just preparing and assembling the fuselage of the Airbus A320. So we're just gonna do a little bit of prep for the parts, and then we're gonna glue the fuselage together. I'm gonna add the weight already, and then I'm gonna glue the windows, and then we'll start working on that modification. So while the glue is curing, we're going to start working on the wings, and initially I have to remove some flaps fairing, as that kit of Revell is not really accurate. Basically those extra fairing are on the A320 only, so 19, 18 are don't have those basically those little wings fairing, so we have to remove them. And as you saw in a former video, this Revell kit is quite old, it's an old tooling, and I have issues as well with the wing thickness and the surface. So I have to remove a lot of extra plastic was there during that extra plastic over the mold, and that requires a little bit of extra work. So I have to do that, and you should consider that if you buy the old Revell kit. So what we will do now, we will remove 5 windows up front and 7 on the aft part of the fuselage. And so for this I'm doing some marks, and I will put some adhesive tape as a guideline for the razor blade. So after that we will just cut through the plastic and basically get the fuselage at the proper dimension. Now we will reinforce basically the fuselage with some part of the sprue that we're gonna add, and that's gonna reinforce the structure. And when we're gonna join basically the tail and the new front together, it will be easier as well. That will be used as a guide, and we'll have a reference to keep it straight. So while this is drying, we're gonna add the extra part of the tail. This is an extra 7mm that we have to add. So for this I use some plastic card, and then we're gonna wait basically, and then now we're gonna reinforce our fuselage and finish our fuselage. So for this, for the alignment as well, I had to use some adhesive tape to make sure that the fuselage was not bended, as sometimes you have some misshape while you are sewing the kit and the fuselage. We will now proceed to the filling of the fuselage junction, and for this of course you'll have to do quite a few layers of putty. So initially I'm going to use that gray one, but I'm going to come 2 or 3 times to make sure that there is no more lines or no more that everything is being filled up and have a smooth surface. So this will require quite a little bit of work, and also on the lower part of the fuselage toward the tail you have to add an extra putty, because you have to make sure that the lines are correct. So as you can see here, I'm using just the measuring tape for this 7 extra millimeters on the tail. Time for the second layer of putty. So as you can see, I have to put some extra on the tail to make sure that I have a really nice smooth surface. And another thing that come really often is the passenger windows. When you fill them up, sometimes it requires 2 or 3 times of filling. Of course, once it's dry, we're coming from the usual extra putty removal with sandpapers, and I'm normally using on all my models about a 600 grit sandpaper. So once again, I had some issue during the transport. One of the winglet was broken, so I used some plastic card to fix it, and some glue, and then I reshaped basically the winglets to the correct shape. Let it dry, and then I was able to do it correctly. Then what I was doing is I will put the engine on the aircraft, fix them, and of course there will be a little bit of a filling as usual. We're now going to do the final assembly, so we're just gonna glue the wings to our fuselage, and then we're gonna fill all the holes with some Tamiya putty, let it dry and cure it before going to the next stage. I will now start painting the fan disc, and for this I'm using that normal mix of paint with metallic paint that I use for the corrugator, and then when the paint is dry I will get all the intakes protected with some masking tapes, as I will later on paint the cowl anti-ice. So we do the last touch up on the wings to make sure that we have some really nice surface, and then we're gonna move on to the paint boots. So we're gonna start now the paint with the corrugator, and for this I'm using the same old mix. So it's a mix of light Tamiya grey and a mix of metallic paint. Then I'm gonna use a very light grey that I used, and it's normally a light grey color mixed some white color as well, and then that give me the correct mix to paint my wings and the engine pylon. Then we're gonna do the engine anti-ice, the cowl anti-ice and the wings anti-ice, and for this I'm using an acrylic paint from Vallejo, and it's a silver color. We will now move to the fuselage, and for this I'm using a glossy white from Tamiya, and I have to say that there is nothing else to say basically about that paint. It's very easy to handle, and after that we're gonna let it cure for a couple of days to make sure that we don't have any marks when we put some masking tapes. And during this part I'm gonna work on the undercarriage and the tires. We now put the orange red coat on the top of the aircraft, and for this it took me a little bit of fiddling with the colors. It's a mix of red and orange, a little bit of yellow as well, and but I'm using the all bold eyes to make sure that I have the correct color. So I don't really have a recipe for that color. You're just gonna have to try to do it by yourself. So while this is dried, I will remove all the tapes, and then we're gonna start painting all the coating on the engines as well, on the exhaust, and we'll start to do all the little touch-ups. We're now gonna start the decaling process, and for this I use Nazca decal. I've been working with Gaston for quite a few years now, and I've been always very satisfied with the quality of his decals. They are very thin, very easy to work with. The big challenge on this one basically was to get the overwing exit, and as it's a white fond, and then you have to reopen slightly the decal and slide the white part below, and then you're able to do it correctly and do a little bit of adjustment. So that was the only challenge I had. Otherwise everything went very smooth, and all the decals had the correct shape, so there is nothing to complain, and I was very happy with those decals. So this is the final result of that modified A320 kit to an A318 from Avianca. So I hope you enjoyed that build with me. If you did so, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will see you soon for another build review, another kit modification. Thank you for watching.